Now we are honored to introduce Mr. Amit Ratanpal, founder and managing director of BLinC Invest, for our first masterclass session of the day on scaling profitably. He is an alumnus of Harvard Business School, having over 20 years of experience in private equity, capital markets, and investment banking. His portfolio includes notable edtech companies like Immersive Learning and EduOnes. Let's welcome him as he shares invaluable insights on scaling profitably. Let's extend a warm welcome to Mr. Amit Ratanpal.
Good morning again, everyone. It's good to be face to face. I know last time I was online, but it's always good to meet everyone face to face as well. And this is, I know it's a very interesting topic, personally for me as well. So I'm sure there will be a lot of debate and discussion as well. Before we go, are there any, while the topic is scaling profitability, are there any specific insights that you want from me or us so I can just note down and see if I can cover as a part of my presentation? I'll just note it down so that I don't miss it.
The insights from your portfolio companies, specifically education ones.
Definitely. That some of the case study does cover that.
Investor sentiments on EdTech. How is it overall? How is this entire business doing?
What is your investment thesis?
Speak a little bit about important decisions you've taken in order to ensure profitability when you were growing these companies, like choosing one over the other, one path over the other.
Anything else?
Your return on investments.
Sure. Sounds good. Most of this would be covered as we look at it. Yeah, please.
B2B versus B2C.
Good one. Always an interesting topic. Cool. That sounds good. I'll try to cover most of this as a part of the presentation. I'll keep this in my mind as well. Quick about BLinC. We started this from 2014. That was a time when I was very clear in my mind that I love building businesses and businesses which can be sustained beyond me and beyond everyone. That was the objective. And choose these two sectors was very simple because these are the only two sectors which I understood. And hence, if you really look at it, it's a co-founder approach. And it's very important for us is that from a VC perspective, because most of the VCs, they have the right to be on the board, but never join the board because of the risk element. And we made it very clear that we will go ahead and join the board because if I call myself that I'm your partner, buddy, all the good names which you want to talk about, we talk about co-founder, then why not take the risk as well, right? And that's the approach, and because that is about the mindset, right? It's about the mindset that, yes, if I'm taking the reward, I'm ready to take the risk as well. And this is important because that's the only way where I can try to join hand with the founders. Otherwise, it's not easy when we tell founders what to do and what not to do in every part of the journey because they have their own ways of doing things and not doing as well. Right? So that's the approach. And value builders, as I mentioned, and technology, I think a lot of noise have been around technology, but we always looked at technology as an enabler and not that's the end of the world, right? That's the approach we looked at. Obviously, we invested in a few companies from BLinC, and there were other portfolios also which we invested. But yeah, this is what we invested in. Yeah. So I think first two slides is just a little bit of an overview for all of us to get a little bit of feel, and then we'll go specifically in the case study portion because that will give us more insights and more about everything as well. In any business, if you really talk about, I think the scaling part, it always revolves around sales, product, marketing, customer service, and technology, and it's always a circle, right? But this is how you will look at it. However, the base is the org structure, MISs, and processes. And if you really ask me, well, this is something which most of the time we have realized that the founder gets it, have analyzed it, there's the pulse of it. But the three things which is the bottom of it, while it is the bottom of it, it is in our opinion as good as the backbone of every organization. Because if you know your customer very well, but you don't have a process of acquiring them, and this is what we yesterday discussed about the CAC and the steps and this, then also there will be challenges. Probably your cost will be high, or probably you'll not get the revenue as well. So this three is extremely critical, which is, in my opinion, a lot of things at times people do ignore it as well. What I'll do is now, in each of this area, we will just give you a little bit of a perspective in the subsequent slides, and then move to case studies as well. Yeah. Now, when we talk about a product, and we as a VC look at it, that is this particular product solving a good to have or must to have, right? If it's just okay to have it, like a classic example is, and it depends on the customer mindset, right? We all may believe that this is the important thing, but not necessarily that the customer will look at it. And a classic example is ERP in K-12, right? Everyone knows it is so important, and as base product, as simple product, as a fee collection product, right? Everyone should have a technology which will tell them what fees they've collected, what sources they've collected, what is the reconciliation method, and everything is there. It's a nightmare for them, right? Because sometimes they give cash, sometimes it's a part payment, but still they will prefer a manual work for whatever reason, right? But in their eyes, it's not necessarily a must to have. It's good to have. Obviously, the COVID things changed like this, but that's is how we look at it. Again, strong market fit and differentiation. I think really it is important that which audience we're looking at it. And I think I'll give you an example, and we'll talk about the education views as well. So, little bit of digression. We are launching our next version of education report on May 8th in Bombay, and literally calling out that is education dead, right? Because what we've been
Education?
dead, right? Because there have been a lot of this question mark, and if you go to any of the VCs nowadays, they would say, education, I don't want to look at it at all, and it's been just come down, right? And at a very broad level, this analysis which we made shows that 90% of the capital has been only invested into tutoring and test preparation. And literally between 21, 22, 23, it's only Unacademy, Baiju, a little bit of eruditis. That's it. And actually nowhere. And when we look at any segment, whether we look at K-12, whether we look at K-12 support, we look at higher education and any of the sub-segment, like it's not even 0 point some percentage of amount has got funded. And that itself shows that we are also biased with one event and saying that, oh, there is not an opportunity. And to be honest, probably we as a VC investors needs to be also blamed that you just overcapitalize some of these companies as well. Yeah, in fact, the report talks about that. If you see the trend, all the education companies which have died, literally, I mean it, have just moved into any and every area of education which they didn't understand. Educom, they were very good in doing what they were doing in classroom, but they went for K-12 to across the board, right? And just couldn't manage it. We are seeing as of yesterday, obviously Baiju is a story, so they also did everything under the earth, and just because they were overcapitalized. Now Veranda, in a listed company, at one end you're buying test preparation, one end you're buying this. Again, they're going through their own challenges because they just are not doing what each senses, and physics wala again trying to do everything. So we pray, at least I would pray that that still have as a safe landing, and that is a challenge when you overcapitalize some of these companies. So just to give you a little bit of perspective around this as well, that why it is important and much well. And again, it is everyone knows it's the pain point. Are we solving the problem, right? If you go to a doctor, if the stomach is paining, he wants to solve the stomach pain first and not. So it's that simple as that. And some of these insights is, though it seems so simple, but as we go through the journey, it's not easy. And while we were looking at this report, as I was saying, Mr. Tharani, and we had a small panel discussion. We had a small panel discussion around the entire skills development. And we generalized the skills development landscape. Oh, it's such an opportunity. When we had a discussion, we literally classified in, let's say, blue collar, white collar, there's something called a creator economy or the gig economy. And within this white collar also, I think we also reclassified, and there is a trend out there that there are people who are freshers who needs job right from the university, which is 0 to 2 years mainly. Then there is a bucket of sort of students or even the employees who are between 2 to 10 years, which is just growing in the organization. They require a very different types of skills. They require probably called upgradation of skills, or AI is the word, technology is the word, how to manage a manager, time, and a lot of other different skills. Now they're exposed to people, technology, and a lot of other things. And beyond 10 years and maybe 15 years, we are literally looking at something like an executive education where companies like Edudators are doing it, where ISB has come out with a course for people with 15, 20 years experience. And all these are very, very different segments to be looked at, different target audience, different requirement, different needs. And this also shows that the entire education skills development market is going to the mature stage, and there are customer segment which you can target and have a right output and ROI as well. And there are business models which you can build around that as well. Marketing, I think we spoke quite a bit yesterday. So it's more about target campaign based customer insights. Again, we'll talk more specifically now or in the next slides how that has made a difference as well. I think sales is very, very critical on this, and trying to answer your question, whether it's a B2B or a B2C, I think does not matter. And I'll give you a very simple example of a B2B company. That company was into scholarship, right? So they will go to the CSR and tell them that, hey, I'm giving you a technology platform which will manage all your scholarship. And not only that, I'm going to acquire, the students from different parts of India who will help you to, match your scholarship requirement. And they work with more than 70, 80 companies, right? Now, if you just look at a B2B when we are doing about, and it starts basically from entire piece of pipeline monitoring, that are these customers, your target A, B, C customers, hot, warm, cold customers. And even once you convert this particular customers, it is about receivable management as well. So this company did about 11 crores of revenue and had about 50 lakhs of loss or break even around that. And suddenly they realize they don't have money in the bank account, right? And merely by doing the receivable analysis, we realized that there were 4 crores of receivables out there. As simple as that, right? So again, it goes to the basics. It does, B2B or B2C is your customer segment, right? And we go to the basics. What is the need of the customer? Is there a value gate? Yes, there is a pricing which obviously you will fit it, right? Because you know that customer will give you the right price, right? And over a period of time, the customer is right? You can overprice it. You believe you're giving the best value, but the customer don't believe there is a value. You can't do anything about it, right? But I think end of the day, when we look at B2B, is the same thing. Is about pipeline, about funnel management. The process is the same. It's nothing different, right? I'm going to say. So it's a B2B. So obviously we acquire through different sources. B2B we acquire through more of a physical meeting. But again, the thumb rule is even very similar. Like in a B2C, as I mentioned yesterday, it's a 14 times you call up before you give up on the customer. Very similar aspect is on a B2B as well. You don't give up a customer because you don't know when the customer will genuinely need you. And that here it is even more relevant. There's no as such end date for a customer who will never buy. The best part is that you ensure that he or she or the customer is part of your database and keep on monitoring, managing them, and they will always be the point where you will be there inside.
There are a lot of skeleton customers. You think they'll become a skeleton or ghost, but they'll come back randomly.
Absolutely.
Actually, when you've completely given up on them, this is when they call you.
Correct. No, absolutely agree with you. So there's no question about that. Again, CRM, MISs are very, very basic needs. And again, we'll talk about more on a specific case studies to give things and everyone a perspective on this. Well, customer is the king. And I think this is an area which, in my opinion, is very, very critical. And one realization, what I've seen is that as the company becomes larger and bigger, we just move ourselves away from the customer. And it's extremely important that we keep in touch with the customer to understand what's the truth, what's the reality, right? And while I'm in a VC fund, and my question would be, who's my customer? At one end, the deal flow or the portfolio companies who I'm looking at is also my customer, because I have to make an investment. I should have the best deal, right? And at the end, My investors are also customer because they're trusting me. Trust me, I make a point at both the level, right? Including my investors, once in a quarter, apart from having a call, we actually have a face-to-face meeting just to take feedback. What are we doing wrong? What we are doing right? Because there are so many customers just gives us a perspective. And I give you again my example. My style or our style of investing in BLinC is to invest into very, very few companies. Within 100 crore, we make 5 odd investments. It's a very concentrated portfolio if I look at a VC deal and nationwide, right? And my question which asked someone, very, very senior person who has built multiple businesses, saying that, yeah, what is it? I find a lot of issues in my portfolio companies. Is it something that I'm being too sort of getting into every specific details, or I'm choosing the portfolio companies wrong, or whatever, it could be. And he gave me an insight. I mean, your style is that you want to know everything what is happening in the company, and just because you know everything, you want to fix it. It's as simple as that, and that's your process. So you get, accepted that that's how it is going to be, and that actually kept me at ease. That yes, there will be challenges in every portfolio companies. And what we'll have to do in my case will be prioritization. I have to look at which are the battle and war which I mean to win. I can't win everything. I have to say what are the top 3 things I want to get as an outcome. But this insights, when I get it, when I'm taking feedback, speaking to the customer at both ends, it could be even my portfolio companies, which we do it on a regular basis, to see what not to do, what they like, right? Every founder is different. And hence, I think this is extremely critical to know what the ground is and what the ground reality is. Technology, again, scalable, we all know. User-centric UI, UX, I think this is again playing a very, very important role. Whether it does not matter whether it's a B2B, B2C. The ease of doing anything at a click of a button is as simple. I think that is something which we all now need to focus on. And always we believed technology is always going to be an enabler. At least that's our belief, that we look at a problem and technology try to solve it. And the outcome of that could be cost reduction, quickly sort of doing it, better customer satisfaction. All this is still enabling from an outcome or an output which we would have it. I'll pause right now very quickly if there are any specific questions before we move to any of our sort of portfolio. Let's just look at it. From an investor's perspective, I did give you a little bit on the insights of education. So we believe at least at BLinC Invest that this is the best time to invest in the education sector. There's so much of awareness across the globe, including the customers, when I say the parents as well, that this is the time to invest, in my opinion, in the education sector. But again, the biggest learning for us or for everyone is that education as a business, if you look at it, right, is a business which is slightly different than others, because this is a business about gratification. If they trust you, they're going to pay anything. Anything means literally anything. And we have seen it in K-12 school. If children go, you want our kids to go in the best schools. It doesn't matter whether the fees per annum is 1 lakh or 20 lakhs, right? It really doesn't matter. So that is very, very important, that this is a product which requires gratification. And once that is there, you will see that they will never lose. That's one piece. Anything in education from a standardization takes a while. It's an iterative process, but you need to build that standardization, whether it is a brick and mortar, whether it's online, the experience has to be same. And there is a very less chance of I would use a word called errors. And it's why it is important. Like you go to a restaurant, your favorite restaurant, that could be a day when the meal is not good. That doesn't mean you'll stop going. You'll again go after 15 days, 1 month, 2 months. But here it's about changing life. It is literally changing a person's life, an individual life. And hence we need to be very, very thoughtful in what we're building, specifically when we're dealing with kids, students, or a B2C brand, even the institution, right? That criticality is very, very important. So this is one thing we'll look at it. And the last piece is a lot of patience is required. Lots of patience. All good businesses are built over years. And we have a classic example of, NIIT, right? It's a 40-year business. That's an institution we built. And it requires a lot of patience. And globally as well. Like when we did this analysis, right? You name institutions like Pearson, which is more than 70 years old. but there's so many other global institutions. They took between 20 to 40 years to build what they are today. And today, and when Baiju was at $20 billion, the fundamental question was that why it has been valued at such a high valuation, when not even across the globe, there's a listed company which is even valued at $10 billion, right? That was a simple sort of mathematics to compare why this is happening, right? What unique they're trying to do. And they've been working for 40 years. They've got fundamental quality businesses. So a lot of patience are required to build an institution as compared to any other business, I'm saying. So these are the 2-3 things is very, very core of the education sector as well. We'll speak about portfolio companies. Thesis we spoke about. Decision making is something which we'll try to cover in 1 or 2 of the slides, that at the event what to take and what call not to take on this as well.
One more query. As an investor, what excites you? What are you looking for when you invest in a EdTech company? What are the parameters that you look at, or you would look at in future?
There are very generic. Your founder अच्छा होना चाहिए, business opportunity होना चाहिए. All this is standard. But if you really look at what's our DNA is to create something, right? And giving you an example, when we invested into a company called Buddy for Study, it's not mentioned here, but it came through a different portfolio. They were the only company in India which is focusing on scholarship. Right? Today we have a CSR. And give you a background of scholarship, 95% of the scholarship are announced but not been filled. 95%, whether it is government, private, it's actually becoming a difficult level. Right? And what they solve is 2 problems. One is the entire journey from a technology perspective, which say that if I have a candidate, to track them from end to end, whether they are able to deliver the results, is my money which I've given to a particular student, is there an outcome or not? Right? Point number 1. Other part with this all is acquisition of students. They literally, what they did, the smartest thing in my view, they went to every local newspapers, which is local means to the extent of district and city and even town, and requested them put a small scholarship ad, which is relevant for that particular community or that part. And just because they realized that because of the scholarship ad, the circulation actually increased. So it was a free scholarship. I would say free newspaper ad was to go, because the newspaper agency would get a benefit of increase in circulation, and they will get candidates just because they had millions of students databases ranging from family income, everything. It just becomes so easy. Right? It was something which got created, right? Or we took our EduVans. We were the first one we invested in EduVans when people said skill-based education and loans for that, why it will survive. And we invested in that. And after that, almost half a dozen came. We look at company like Raising Superstar, right? Again, a very, very unique model. They focus on early childhood education. If you are aware that 0 to 6 years is that 95% brain development happens. And that is why if you really look at it, in the last 5 years, government has implemented the entire Anganwadi scheme. Right? Today, we have got 1.5 million Anganwadi, almost catering to more than 60 to 70 million between rural urban areas. Because they realize that and there is a study been done by UNICEF, by Government of India, there's a published report on early childhood education framework by the Government of India saying that people who have gone through early childhood education, their salary income is much better than who have not gone through it. They have better chances of being successful as well. So a lot of studies are there in black and white. And that's why government created this Anganwadi. Not only that, they're seeing a trend that if 100 students are going to Anganwadi, surprisingly, from age 4-5 onwards, more than 50% of students from Anganwadi moves to private, either preschool or pre-primary schools as well. And that is an area which is just early days, we believe, because most of the time in India, saying that, okay, especially tier 2-3 cities, they'll send kids in more like grade KG or, something around that. So that's why we invested. What does Raising Superstar do? They basically provide parenting app saying that 0 to 6 years, we know there is a maximum brain development happen. They provide kits and various other things. And The parent can play with the kids, and because of that, their outcome is that they can each and every part of neurons get connected, and because of that, there is a better brain development as well. There is something which has been done by UNICEF also study. There's a specific outcome on also this. Now this is a category never existed, right? Because otherwise, the mom, what you do is either speak to their sort of friends, or it could be grandmother, or it could be many things else. But this has been scientifically researched and sort of looked into as well. So yeah, so this is how we look at it. Idea is that can we create, right? Like we invested into Ambitio, which is in study abroad. Idea was to sort of say that everyone is charging or taking money from the universities, right? All of the large companies, they say we will never take money from the university, but can we build a profile? And literally when we launched our report on study abroad, which is available on our website, we said, right college for the right student. And that activity or development starts from undergrad, starts from grade 8 onwards. And for higher end onwards, it starts from when you are starting your engineering or your commerce or something like that. Because you need to understand what you want to do. It's a discovery process, not anything else. It's not appearing for SAT exam or the GRE exam and getting into this. It's about right college, or even we're going to the extent of right courses as well. Right. So again, this is how we want to create, not charge anything from the university or take money, but charge the unit, but provide that value.
At what stage do you invest?
Incubation to revenue, crore revenue from also is fine with us. Quickly move. Sorry.
Question like any views or experience with online delivery model versus in-person delivery model in education versus hybrid? I was just speaking to sir yesterday, and there are concerns on online delivery model quality, employability, the engagement of learners. Of course, there are tools everyone is attempting to build to bring this more real-time, dynamic, context specific. But any learnings, any views that are formed, I was also speaking to Shiva. It's the digital marketing, I do emails, trainings, domain and institutional. But we are having same kind of challenges with online.
Sure. See, how we are looking at it is like this. That end of the day, it does not matter whether delivery is offline or online. Do we have an outcome? Outcome is extremely, extremely critical. And I'll give you example on this. In 2014, when we invested in Ematica, they were doing about 5 odd crores of revenue. And that was a time we had companies like Edureka, we had companies like Simply Learn, who actually moved away from offline to complete online models. And because Ematicus was skill-based job focus, they said no, offline is where we can give the best outcome. Right? And today, the company is doing more than 250 crores of revenue, profitable, all this. So what is important is that outcome is very, very critical. How best you can deliver this and what is been absorbed by the customer as well. But at the same time, we have realized over a period of time, and this merely by experience, that if it is something where it is job focused, I think the physical still makes a difference. But if it is at people with 10 years, 15 years experience, you can still have online. But I think at the same time, we have realized over a period of time, well, even if you do 100% online, hybrid is still better because people do want that social element, right? One is learning, the other part is, having that social part also when you're part of this community. So, as that's how we've seen, things have sort of moved. It's just, the effect is not there beyond a point. So what I'll do is just move to, again, we mentioned the key enablers of scalability. This is given. And again, all these three things we are going to speak in part of this piece. And this presentation is available, so you don't need to. So this is again. What I'll do is I'll just go with a little bit of a reverse on this. Sorry. Can we just go to go a little reverse because this is the latest case study for her. Yeah. So, perfect. So this is as early as 12 months back, right? We were exploring to make an investment in this particular company, and we didn't make an investment, but it's a very, very interesting journey, right? This particular company, before COVID, was doing about 60 odd crores of revenue and super profitable, right? Literally, they had about 15 crores in the bank account. When we looked at this particular company in 22 Aspas, they were doing again, like by that time, every last like 2 years because of COVID, they were burning money and they still about 1 or 2 crores in the bank account, but not much. And they were like literally burning money. At that point of time, they were doing about 25 crores of revenue. And that year, they did 8 crores of loss. Thereafter, again, we didn't see it rejected. And then again, when we looked at this company, in 1 or 2 months, they were at almost like a 22, 23 crores of revenue and 5, 6 crores of net loss, right? And we said no because it doesn't make sense. But the founder suggested and requested us that, can you help us? What are the things we should look at it, right? And literally on a pro bono, we did this assignment as if we are the CEO of this company. It was, and literally, I'm putting it like this. Outcome, obviously, we can see, but I think the journey is very, 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 very critical, right? So what we did, simple things, nothing different. We focus exactly what I've told you. The backbone is what? Organization, process, and MIS. These are the 3 backbone which we focus. Nothing, and literally, I've not been to the centers as well. We went, that was level 2. I'm talking about level 1 details. So we said, now, if it is a center-based business, we want, only thing what we want is please give me the profitability of all the centers. If it is a franchise business, please give me the franchise profitability of every business and how much we are spending. These are the 2 data which we did. And the 3rd data which we took from them is please give me all the employees which you have on roll and divide between sales, counseling, and delivery, and just give me the outcome input metrics and the output metrics. Very, very critical, right? Nothing else. By only looking at this data, we found that while they would claim they had about 15 to 18 branches, there were only about 3 branches which was delivering the revenue profitable, and all there was a long tail. Like you have a branch in Jaipur, is giving you 40 lakhs of revenue, but again, that you're spending 1 crore to achieve it. Like the effort to maintain this is becoming more, and they were, oh, my revenue will come down. I'm like, yes, but the revenues will come down. Either you ensure that you have the right people in the branch or the centers and make it big, have a focus approach. It takes a while, or you close it, nothing else, right? And when we talk about employees, you're shifting from there, input output metrics, right? And within the sales, it's a very, very simple formula. If it is an inside sales team, average our top should be sort of 2 hours a day. If someone calls sort of 100 people, the connectivity rate of an individual is between 30 to 40%. They again depend on the product and the type of leads and all this. And if 30 to 40% is that, then there is a funnel between 3 to 4% is a conversion. And when we just look at the input metrics, nothing else, not forget about the outcome also. The average call time or the number of leads they were generating, you actually don't need half of the sales team. You literally don't need half of the sales team. And we said, why? Why are you doing this? So this was my level 1 answer. And just by doing this, the company didn't reduce the revenue. Actually made the similar revenue from 22, it came down to 20, but the 6 to 7 crores of loss almost became a 50 lakhs of profit. Right? So this was just the basic thing which we did. Then what we did is move to the org level. What does your typical branch look like? Like you have a center head, you have a counselor, this. Just ensure that every branch have a similar model and the right people at the right place. And merely by doing that, right, each and every branch actually became profitable. Simple thing, you have got 3 branches, just look at the location of the 3 branch in a particular city. If there are 2 branches which is like so close to each other, that means each is cannibalizing the business, doesn't make sense, right? So what I'm again going to the basics is that if we really want to scale any businesses and going to the main theme of it, profitability, you may get a lot of these things right, but if we don't get the processes and MISs, which is the backbone, and we don't get the insight what is happening in the organization, we can keep on trying to do many, many things. But that is the base. And unfortunately, fortunately, in education, it's not about trying to do many, many things. It's just about you have your product ready. You know what the customer is wanting. Yes, there will be an innovation in the product. I'm not questioning or denying any of the thing. But this is the basic, and it's the same thing doing month on month again and again for last 2, 3, 4 years. And just you have to repeat it. You can't have even a lapse in this. And that is in my view, completely make a lot of this thing a difference. And when they saw it, they realized why did they burn 12 crores, right? Like again, when we talk about cost cutting, right, during the COVID, lot of people, and I'm saying literally a lot of people, organization sort of made a mistake. When you talk about cost cutting, you have to see what is the cash impact happening, is the number of people impact, right? Most of the time said, okay, we have 20 people on the sales, let me remove it. But they didn't realize that by removing these 20 people, the cash impact is very less. Maybe the better would be that why don't we reduce the salary or of a senior management who may not make a difference, but for a people at a junior level, if that 20,000 itself is a lot because they have EMI and a lot of other things, right? And that is again was a realization. What they did is actually reduce quite a bit of sales team rather than managing others. So these are some of the decisions which you have to be very, very sure of when you are making it and going to a critical decision. Specifically, again, in Meticulously learning, we didn't, not even one sales guy were told to, because we realized that it's so difficult to get them on board and maintain it. Rather, the senior management reduce their salary by 50-60%. If someone is doing a 40 lakh salary, आपका घर चल जाता है. In any city you are in, at a half of the price, आपका घर चलता है, right? It's not that you'll be out on the road, but for someone who's earning 25,000, it's everything for them. So these are some of the decisions we have to be very, very thoughtful and mindful at what we are doing, what is the outcome we are looking at. See, every time we have to look at it, what is the outcome we are looking at, what we are trying to achieve. If we are clear what we are trying to achieve, then it's basically very, very easy to go back and say, yaar, ye chart theek kar de. Go back. And the reason I took the latest was just to give you perspective that the base is what literally makes a difference. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So this is again, we can go to 3, it's fine, no problem. So I think many times, we have to look at even the core business model. It's not always necessary that you may have the best org, you must have the best processes, and maybe you may have the best MISs. But there are certain business model which will always operate on a low margin business as well. Right? And this is a very interesting example of a OPM base. And today we know that a lot of organizations have tied up with the IITs of the world and IIMs of the world, right? And there are companies ranging from obviously, Masterclass, Great Learning, Talent Sprint, Talent, a lot of these companies, right? Lot of this, Upgrade as well is there, EduRide, a lot of these companies. Just think about it. If 100 rupees is what we're charging the customer, 50 to 60 plus 40 to 60 is what the university is taking. That means only rupee available is between 40 to 50 is what you have available for you to ensure that your acquisition has been done and a lot of other things have been managed, right? Now, this business, at least in my experience in the last 7 years, which we have seen, any business where they not have a control over the delivery and it is merely an acquisition engine, specifically for this, the cost of acquisition, even if it's a high value product, sometimes if it's a higher value, the cost of acquisition as a percentage should be lower or hona chahiye. Most of the companies are still operating between 2 to 4% margin. Just because the cost of acquisition, whatever you do is not coming down. Either you can't squeeze the university because they are controlling the delivery and the certificates, right? That means the only way you can optimize is improve your margins. And then the scalability will come, right? If the same course, you are doing it on your 10th batch or the 12th batch, then the referral model kicks in and people say that, is the referral making a difference? That's where your 15% or 10% or 20% margins will come up. But some of this business is truly long-term. And now this LTV has to be looked very differently. While we got a particular customer today and we are milking that customer today, but the brand value of the course actually is your LTV then. If the same course, which has been very, very successful, you're running it on the 5th batch or the 7th batch, and it's truly successful, then that's, this is value adding to me. And then a lot of, I would say, candidate students will come through the model as well. Any questions around that? And these are some of the learnings on this, like why it is important. Like many of these universities, they have a 2-year partnership. What happens by the time you just build a brand, university changes the course saying, oh, sorry, I don't want to continue. unless until you have a long-term partnership, because that's the nature of the business. Has to be a long-term. Second is like, if what happens if the university takes away the partnership for whatever reason, that's where the organization plays a lot of value addition, whether you talk about sort of job assistance, career guidance, it could be a lot of this master classes and a lot of these things. Then you know that while the university is playing an important role, but because of this bundling of different offering, the value added product overall gives you a better value, and that becomes your key. Or it could be even social networking, but even the courses online as well. Okay. So pause. Any questions around this? Yes.
Scalable model in higher education, like partnering with right brand universities. Adding the domain part also into the delivery. It's not the university will do that. Because in our area, like in EVs, new energy, even universities are not there. So almost we start with 70-80% of delivery responsibility by us. Do you see that this model will scale? Because I see a lot of reservations in universities to sign long contracts. Even maintaining those contracts, like changing of people, directors there leads to issues with the kind of air that is about like third party ad providers. It's creating concerns, doubts. So are there elements which you have figured out through this partnering company of really creating strong trust and contracts and strong engagement? We have seen like within universities, like two people who are really clear buyer, creating the program and driving things, but people below their incentives, the university is not aligned that strong. Like what that project coordinator has to do, what that someone those incentives, even we want to support, but they don't want to discuss. They say that okay, we will take care. It's not getting taken care, which affects the delivery. So these are some technical issues, I would say. But do you think that this is scalable? Like
this model is scalable. If I compare with in the last decade or so, obviously the universities which were closed has opened up quite a bit. And even the regulation have become very, very clear, which was not there, both in terms of the online education, distance education, the boundaries, and a lot of these things, have become more black and white. Although earlier, if you, online education was not even defined, and can a university do 10% online or 40% online, which is now they can technically do 40%, been defined. So obviously things have opened up, but these are truly the constraint on which you have to work. So if, let's say, they're not getting into this partnership for whatever reason, and I understand that the first 2-3 universities may not be able to, then probably the third will play a very critical role. Right? Third and one is when, because that is still controllable by you, and ensure that your overall offering is so good that if even on third or fourth year university want to pull out, they will realize that they can't do it by themselves, because many times what the university does is, oh, now I've got a brand, can I do it by myself? Can I try to do something which is मैं खुद से करता हूँ, right? And that is your differentiator. 1 and 3 is a differentiator then, because you're given that opportunity, valued services, back, your deficit acquisition channel. Like for example, you can do, there are franchise model available. There's online model. Then a lot of the different types of model are there. That will now then become a different, because that becomes difficult for any university to replicate the distribution model and the valued services. Then I think one should really focus on.
also, Amit, like the degree versus certification. What a user wants is a degree, at least efforts, least resistance part. And many of the big brands, IITs, IIMs, like I think with third parties, they are hesitant to go with degrees. Want to go with more certification, which they are very easy to take off, does not need to go through Senate and routes. Going with degree, which is what industry or customer is demanding, also is becoming a challenge. So their options are the lower.
One thing is there that if you really look at ISB is not giving a degree, right? Go back to what my thing is. If there is an outcome, and people are recognizing and accepting it, right? So Are the corporates open relatively? Absolutely yes. And the classic example was NIIT, right? When they developed this entire course, and correct me, sir, it was not a degree course, right? It was so much of accepted by the industry.
Or never be.
Exactly. It was accepted because there were that industry standard quality was that there was an outcome. And we are not talking about now, we are talking about 30 years back, 25 years back. And actually the things have not changed. Industry is actually, I believe that industry is more open to try because one element they want to do is get the best candidate at the lowest cost. Right? And why sometimes candidate wants the maximum salary is because they know, oh, I've spent about 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs or what like on my education. If I don't get this much of salary, where is my ROI? But the question is he or she even ready for that industry? If he or she is not ready, doesn't matter how much he or she is paid. And hence, we'll go to the basics is fundamental is outcome. If there is an outcome, in my view, there is definitely elasticity for people to pay and there is a demand.
Have you seen like maybe different outcomes for different segments, Amit? Like for this higher education or the kind of learners that this program is targeting? Are you able to segment them by outcomes? Is it
Very.
assessment only every time, or in this case, it is outcome one? This segment requires this outcome. This segment requires this outcome.
Very different. So very, absolutely right. So if you look at this segment of people, let's say take people with 15 years of experience, right? Someone is doing this ISB, PGP or IIM Ahmedabad or nowadays even INSEAD are doing. All these guys are doing is because they reached a level in their career where they want more experience learning. They want to now go beyond their vertical focus and be a generalist as well, right? They now want to even network with other peers as well. So it is not necessary for them that by doing this course, I'll get a job, but probably their exposure will enable them to give a better and a bigger role. And that is the outcome which they would be looking at. That am I getting that sort of, satisfaction of doing this course? And it's
your experience in this sector today, or grad or simply learner, all these guys. What percentage of income is from here and what percentage is from outside India? Because most of them are also operating in other geographies, right?
It depends from company to company. Like eruditus, I would say almost this is more than 60-70% is outside India because the model, all the university tie-up is global universities, right? So they're more of a global as compared to Indian. But if you look at upgrad, Demarticus, mostly it is from India. Simply Learn, quite a bit of revenue is from the US, almost I would say 50%, and still a decent is from India as well. So it depends on absolutely the model to model which a company is pursuing and what are they offering actually speaking.
Okay. Other classifications would be what Brown was hinting at in the beginning. If you look at Indian market, not the outside Indian market, clearly a alumni status. Second part, which you said just now about career progression and actually learning part, right? The learning part, they would always look at the person who is teaching, who are the guys, and they would do good research and come to the place. It's not like ad based, call. Of course, they may know from ad in the truest sense of designating, okay, these are the guys with me. Why don't you have a look at it, kind of. So, what do you see? Where is the Indian online education market, especially? This is because mostly it's working professionals. They are not fresh graduates, undergraduates, who are pursuing education, correct? So, where do you see, how is that divided? With respect to, I just need this degree because central government jobs do mandate, there's a huge, all this current offline universities doing their ODL is mostly targeting those kind of segment. So where do you see, what is the kind of market divide you see? Again, the pricing also varies, courses there and
So again, they're different. Let's take example, right in the middle of the COVID, now government has allowed to come out with their online degrees, and there are about, I think, 90 university which can now go ahead and issue online degrees, right? And then distance education is very, very different. So today, if you really look at people who are pursuing some of this online degree, while they're pursuing online degree, but how many of them are competing? I think that's the key number. The ratio, at least what we've seen in the market, is still, while people claim it, but practically we have seen is that it is still not more than 40%. It is still lower. And that code, I think people are yet to crack it, which says that to the masses, online degree could be a little bit of hybrid as well. At a value added price, means let's say nowadays still the price is between 50,000 to 1 lakh. Okay. What is the engagement and what's the outcome? It's still early days. NMIMS, which stopped obviously, because of government, but before that, and it's publicly available, they were doing almost 640, 670 crores of revenue and superbly profitable because they cracked their acquisition channel. But when you talk to the founders out there, that guys, how many of them are completing the degree?
This company, sorry?
NMIMS.
NMI.
Yeah, NMMS had this online distance education, right? They moved to 650. They were very, very profitable, almost like a 20 because they cracked the acquisition channel. But when we talk about how many of them have completed the degree, which is online, the ratio has been still between 35 to 50% as an industry. That people have not been able to crack it.
What happens to the money the students paid?
They just like it's so small an amount at some point of time because they're different category of them. Like it's not more than 75,000, right? So they just forget it over a period of time.
Basically, that particular market segment is not looking at a outcome that enhance their career most of the time.
No, I'll tell you, I think, and this is Mera view, and I'm telling you with my experience in 2004, 10, when we had invested with MIT School of Distance Education in Pune, right? That time also the fees was 45, 50,000. If you see, now also fees is 50 to 75,000. But one thing definitely we saw the engagement rate. That time the engagement, and when I say people completing, was not more than 30%, but in 32 it moved to 56% in a merely 8 months to 9 months, because just moved up because of higher engagement. And when I say high engagement means they, it's at that time all different levels, right? Oh, if you're not able to complete a chapter, not moving up, you call up the student and say why you're not completing, right? There's so many different levels you do, and merely by pushing them, literally, it's like your workout. Everyone knows we need to work out, right? Everyone knows this, and everyone will have a trainer. But literally getting up every day regularly, let's say you need that push. That push definitely made a difference out there.
So the reason why I'm asking this, my final question would be same thing what he has asked. Here in this industry segment, anyone who pays money definitely is looking at the outcome. So unless we want to design a product, unless we are clear about what outcome we want to offer, we won't be correct with our product design, what we want to offer. Correct? So which outcome is the one which will have a sustainable future? Okay, because it's not knowledge acquisition. Knowledge acquisition today, in its truest sense for a hungry guy, if you want to have that feel of that ambience, that social learning atmosphere, you would choose a physical room, IIM or something. But because of the constraints of how entry barriers and all, they may go for an online, which is much more less constrained. But still, they are lacking in those things. Correct. So it is not knowledge experience through the social learning aspect. And those who are self-motivated, they have their online stories. And Google is good enough for today's GPT server. So again, the degree stamp as a license to get into some higher career or whatever that part. Second thing is networking. That is a invaluable thing which only some of these institutions can give, not everyone again. Meaning, Great Learning cannot give its own certificate for networking. So if they who wants networking would choose a co-branded course with IIMs. So where do you see which one of these things you think will have sustainable future with
I think the India is getting segmented in all the segments, and there is actually genuinely an opportunity in each of these segments. There's no question about that.
Trying up wells here and there.
So even if you ask me today also, and this is again we are going to publish in our report specifically on online higher education, and when we had a debate and discussion with people likes of MIT, Manipal, LPU, a lot of these people, and they're large sort of consumer and online, and all of them mentioned that the bucket between the 75,000 rupees to 2 lakh is a large opportunity, right? There's no question about that. But today, I would say, if you really look at this entire online regulation, is a 3 years or 4 years old, right? Like from a clarity perspective, while Manipal has been doing in a different model long time back and all this. So today they just thought of acquiring. Now they've got a base of some have 50,000, some have 1 lakh, and some have 2 lakhs as well. With this base, now they're going back and focusing on two things: that people who have graduated, what has happened to them? That is a study now Manipal is doing it to get, is there an outcome happening? Why they did this course? And second, they're working on the entire engagement piece, that how do I ensure my learners who appear for the exam and get a degree gets more than 7? Because that they will come to know that what exactly people are looking at. At the same time, very interesting is that almost 15 to 18% of their learners are adult learners, which are more than 45 years of age as well. So there is a category of adult learners which is also coming, where they are undergrad and they now want postgrad degree is coming in. The second change which we are seeing is that a lot of people who are in a tier 3, 4 cities as an option, and they don't have a degree, right? As an option, rather than going to a very local college or school or whatever it is, and pursuing the job, they still prefer a much more branded degree. And they said online is okay for me. And this is a new category in undergrad which is coming up. But there, I think evolution will happen more on the hybrid side, while you do it online, how you do it offline and all this. So this is a new category which I think one has to look at it, how the development will happen.
So, Amit, now Manipal University, they have 15 campuses across India for their online degree courses. They have started the on-campus orientation.
Correct.
So let's say Amit University, Mumbai campus, Bangalore campus. So they are doing orientation session there. They are doing degree convocation session there. So I think and this one fact, so when we are thinking online versus offline, we are putting ourselves, we are thinking we can afford the both, and then you are selecting, right? Versus there are candidates who are, let's say, in tier 3 towns, Indore. So candidate, when I'm, let's say, mentoring, so we are primarily into online degree segment and certificate segment, right? So then let's say a candidate in Indore, he's saying I'm not satisfied with the colleges here, and I do not have too much money to go to some cities for on-campus education. It might cost me more than 10 lakh. Versus if you look at online BBA from Amity or any university, its total 3-year cost is 1,50,000, less than 1,50,000. You start from 1 lakh to 1,30,000. So for 1,30,000, 3-year online BBA from a university, and because the course is online, they're able to pull some foreign faculty also from top universities, some industry expert sessions also from top companies. And then every week there is one session on placement assistance, how to build resume, interview preparation. So pulling the industry experts becomes very easy when the post delivery is online. Sometimes when we get invited from many colleges and all as a guest speaker, we think who will go to Bhopal or some other city, right? So let's say if I'm based out of Bangalore, I will only accept if it is within 10-kilometer radius, I can manage alongside of my office work. If it is not in 10 kilometers, I will reject it, right? But what if it is online? If Jain University in Bangalore or any university is calling, we are saying, take 1 hour session we will attend, right? So if Amit has to attend online, he will attend online.
And I'll add, the same trend I see coming back with what happened in GNIT. We have a undergrad course, which we thought, I don't know, would sell or not sell, but it's selling like hotcakes, just out of school or first year, second year, a year-long program, not a 2-year-long program. So they prefer an online program degree, and they would want to take this. So they do it for the college experience, for also other XYZ things which you want to do, and have that whole in-person skill, capability development, and tick off that degree thing by an online program. So that's come back big time now. So you don't have to sell it. People are, and I was surprised when I talked to the students, it's become a dining table conversation, because 20 years back, or 30 years back, a guy who did a course from an NIIT or an AppTech is now a parent, and his life changed because of that course. So he is now telling the kid, "Arey, engineering chhod de, ye kar le." So that is
I hope the kids have the same experience that the parents had.
with us, yes. With NIIT now,
No, I'm saying at that time what the experience was. I wanted to make a point. To me, 40-50% of the people getting value for money they paid is bullshit. Someone pays you something, you have a commitment. People are not looking at commitment. They're looking at there's a lot of revenue, there's a big market. There's a lot of business to be in. That's your approach. You owe an obligation to everyone. And that's a personal choice. Absolutely. We built it that way. Now, if you're telling your kid to go to a place, your assumption is they will look after them. And the conversation around here is 40%, 30%, 50%. Or in entrance exam, less than 1% JEE. Poor people sell their land. 0.3% get value. That's a philosophical question, but that's a founder's choice. I have no time for founders who don't look at this.
So, Rajan sir, what happens, like a lot of candidates who are like working professionals, they enroll into online MBA courses. Now what happens?
What intent? I'm a founder of ISB. I know that's a
So-
question. So it's Vijay in many places. The point which is very valid is what are people coming for? Now you may have a mix of people. Some people come and say, I don't want a job from you. I want to be a lawyer, but I know that if I don't know technology, I may not be. So we said, fine. Then our job is to help you become a better lawyer using technology. So those are not the conversations which many founders are doing. So yesterday when our marketing conversation was going on, the guy, he made some very practical comments. Not in his presentations, but to your question. He said, talk to the fellow. Talk to the person. What do they really, really want? Or even when there was a question about how do I find out, how do I do benchmarking? He says, call the competitors fellow for interview, will give you the data. Those are all practical questions. So here I am saying, biggest thing is who are you serving? What do they come to you for? The fact that 50% go away, they don't go away happy. It'll catch up with you. It catches up not now, it catches up for a long time. So therefore, the point is that when you are getting into the business, sometimes you're doing it because people say, look, I want a piece of paper. Yes. I want a government job. I learn, don't learn, everyone goes there with a piece of paper. Normally we say we are not your place. In the good old days when we used to pull Aptech's leg, they used to pull our leg. We said, you want to have fun, go to Aptech. It's a fun place. Now I think we overdid it because people want fun as well. These days they want more fun. But we said if you are serious, then come here because it's a place to work hard. So that you have to set. That's your choice. And nobody else has the, I don't have a right to say, why are you doing this? But I can say, what would I do? And that's not what you should do. But you should ask that question. And you should be aware that if 30%, 40%, 50% go away, did they go away happily? Or did they go away with a grudge? And the grudge accumulates. And it explodes at some point. It explodes at some point. So that's why in this GSV thing, I said, if you're in it to make and sell, do it quickly. And my choice is don't go in for that objective. Someone else becomes a sucker. Someone else take the cap. If you're in it to serve and I'm not being a, weak-hearted, person, seva karo. Do it with an intent, but give value. I think the value question comes up again and again. What you're promising, you have to deliver. I'm not saying 100%, but 95%, 94%, 93%, or whatever. And there's a story which Vijay tells from time immemorial. He ran the first batch in Bombay. And he says there was a shippy who came and went away halfway through the course. He said, I've been tracing him to see where the hell is the guy. I've got something to deliver to him. That mentality has to be visible.
Found him after 6 years.
After
6 years.
6 years. So question is the intent of the founders, not of the managers. The managers have KPIs, objectives and so on. They come and they go. You created the idea. You are responsible eventually. So if you are making to sell and be serial entrepreneur, I have no time for you. That's your business model. Okay, you buy and sell, people buy and sell. If you're serious about this, then stay in the game. And if you're that kind of person with business such that you don't feel like giving it up, however difficult it is. This again I've seen from US to Europe. You remember John Kirkham, the guy who dealt with us when we were using their videotapes? I often thought of getting out of the business. There's so many hassles, but I can't think of doing anything else. Nothing gives as much of satisfaction. So it is a passion business.
Okay, that's why the outcome and The biggest question.
Dropouts now on online courses happen because they, especially degree kind of courses, happen because they don't see value half the way.
That's exactly what
And
I'm
then
saying.
they go get a job already.
No. So not only that, if you are serving those customers and they got a job not because of you, but they got frustrated, they were doing something. What is the brand getting built? So we talked of branding, and if I'm just taking away a couple of minutes.
Absolutely.
Very well point. Brand, in our definition, is the residue that is left after the transaction is completed. It's not the promise. Anybody can promise. And when your transaction is over, is there a positive feeling or a negative feeling? If there's a people of demand, people are confused, they don't know, they come to you, you say, "ठीक है, 30% तो कर रहे हैं." Skim the thing and get out, because it'll catch up with you. At some point, it'll catch up with you. You can, like they say, you can fool most of the people all the time, some of the people, whatever, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And if you're in the business, now your business may morph with time. That happens. Some segments become less attractive. And we talk about it, and I think make some very valid points about the whole. What does your customer need, and how do you get focused to?
That is super critical. Outcome is extremely, and whenever says that outcome is not possible, that means probably you know your product or business itself. And the fundamental would be, do you know what you're doing? Exactly what's so mentioned. And this is what specifically non-bank, Manipal, LPU, all are still trying to find out. And that is genuinely, now they're realizing that yes, you scale till 1 lakh, right? But if you move on to go from 1 lakh to 10 lakhs, this is not the method in it will happen. The method has to be outcome, what the customer needs it. And until if the outcome is that customer not engaged, then is it a product issue, whatever. But that figure out we have to do. There is no
Go all the work you do on engagement, you lose money. If you do.
Amit, can I add?
So, Amit, there is one more comment, and I think you can actually prove it mathematically. Which is, you said this is a patient business, and my theory is one of the EdTech constructs which has gone wrong is to get a quick return in 3 years, 2 years, 5 years. If you are doing that, then intrinsically this business is not designed for that, unless you want to be doing whatever you are doing. In which case, the only choice you have is hit and run. Because if you don't run, you will be hit. Right? Which is what is happened wherever it is. Right? So it is hit, run, or get hit. So if that's your business model, then frankly, why do you have to go for education? I mean, pickpocketing is a very, very
Online scamming.
Very lucrative. 20-year-old quote, he said.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense.
It's a very lucrative profession. I have tried it, but
excitement.
so why I'm saying is, if you go mathematically, if you intend to stay in the business, then you will see that this curve, which in the beginning appears to be lower CAC, because you are not adding value, slowly the CAC will start increasing, and then your business will become unviable. As it starts becoming unviable, you will be forced to take some more shortcuts. That's the Educom story. I mean, you pick up any of them and you can write case studies on that, right? So
How many have read the Baiju book? Mandatory reading. And I think Baiju started very well. He meant well. And yet, you can read the story. It's a very, very well written thing by a journalist who was a great fan. What's this guy's name? I forget. And he pursued them, and then he started finding it difficult to get interviews. And he started getting work. We write. So you can't, it's a one flight book, thin book, extremely educative for startups.
What's the name?
Are the journalists?
No, it's the name.
So that's the reason when I asked you which of these will be according to your research? Because you also not just invest, you do research and then do that, right? Among the various offerings, which one is the one which will have beyond? For example, today.
The Learning Trap, sorry, that's the book. Learning Trap. It's a very readable, very well written book, and it's not to criticize Baiju, but I think it's how things can go out of hand. Founder is not focusing on the right things. It's very good. He's a brilliant teacher. There's no question. Brilliant teacher.
Can I make a suggestion on the online? Because we were the delivery partner for a lot of online players. And we actually very proud to say we had a completion rate of 95%. And the only way which we were talking about yesterday was you need to align mentors with the student, because we all forget online is a very humanized way of learning. So for people, the incentive of finishing an online course and a degree is even worse. A short course, 3 months, people will finish. 6 months, people will finish. 2-year online course. Imagine how difficult it is to show. It's difficult to show up to class for 2 years when you're physically here. Imagining doing it online. So if you have a buddy, if you have somebody coaching and mentoring you through it, it's very useful. And the other thing we realized that we learned this by default, not by design, but by default. We are a coaching centric market. As long as I have a coach or a mentor, somebody to guide me, I'm comfortable. The moment you take the coach away, I don't feel like finishing this. So you need somebody. It's very expensive. The only problem is that's very true. Accountability requires someone. So be it a K-12, I'm raising 2 kids myself, and I know if I give them the accountability that by that day and I want to see 50 questions, 50 MCQ, or 2 essays to be done, or 20 pages to be completed, then they will do it. The moment I slow down, they'll slow down. So, but if you have somebody,
Okay, we have to start winding up. I think we've gone beyond our time. So, one last comment. Otherwise,
Did you get a chance to complete what you wanted?
So I think the big message, which we, if you really look at it,
you could, yeah, you could.
outcome is very, very critical, right? And what the customer wants, and get your basics in place, which is your processes, your MISs. And MISs gives you insights. That is what the out here. If you can get even this to outcome and insights through MISs, I think most of your challenges will get solved.
I have what's this 1 minute? If I can, a very important thing you wrote: low cost, high trust lead generation. If you could just throw some light on that. It was very interesting point. Sorry if I'm taking time, but or we can do it offline.
No, it's fine. See, I think the trust is exactly how do people get trust, right? What is the people? If they know that there is an institution, whatever they're promising, are they able to deliver this or not? If they're not delivering,
Reference basically.
that is the only way. That's the only approach out here. There's no other approach, because that's then people. Then the beauty is that you'll beat Facebook and you'll beat everyone, because the trust factor is so high. And this is the business. And truly, if you are really put it like that, education is a truly business of trust. When I send my daughter to a school, we are trusting that institution, they will do the best.
Basically a delivery business, not a sales business. I think we're mixing it up, the whole thing, somewhere.
It's an outcome business. The delivery is a part.
Delivery is the key.
It's an outcome where the trust element plays a very, very, very critical role. Yeah.
You had one last, same.
So, my initial question, I just want to follow up on that. So, one decision that you said was sticking with offline for growth. Are there any pointed decisions you came across in your career in EdTech where that influenced profitability in your minds, if you look back?
I think the other decision is engagement. And when I say engagement is outcome, like early childhood education where we've invested, still an investor, we found that your engagement came down from 80% to 71%. And that was impacting across the board, apart from internal challenges. So
Engagement meaning completion.
yes. In this particular case, it's a completion rate. And we did everything to go back to that number. That engagement is and it means completion rate. And you have to go why. It could be even product issue also. Remember, it is not necessarily just pushing. It could be a product challenge. Maybe the product is outdated now, right? So that is very, very critical, where we said, okay, it's okay to not to grow, but let's get the basics in place, because the growth will come actually the growth comes automatically, the basics in place. Literally, and that has happened.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.